We're live. Okay. Yes,
Hello, everyone.
Narcissus. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode number 4,
Yeah,
Unfolded. How are you?
we
How are you doing, Narcissus?
no. Well, it's been a while since we talked, and with this occasion, I want to apologize to our listeners that we were not able to keep up the recordings as we wanted every week. But until we find a flow for this podcast, then it becomes a routine for
Mm,
us to record it every weekend. Then we can take more responsibility of claiming it to be a weekly affair.
mm,
But until then, how I am? Well, it's close to November, right? Now I'm discussing about Saturday going to open the Christmas season in Blokhus in the Sculpture Park, and there will be 2 million lights, so it
mm,
should be fun. uh, I mean, it's time to start shopping for your Christmas gifts and preparing for the everything that the holiday means, right? Like planning your
mm,
holiday vacation and planning holiday gifts and thinking about the advent calendar, which one you're going to buy this year, and thinking about the Christmas parties because those will be quite a few and you have to make sure you go to all of them. So
mm,
pretty much all the weekends from November till January are just Christmas parties. And
mm.
what about you, Arun?
I have been very much soaked into work and apologize for the audiences listening to this podcast because I think it was because of me the podcast couldn't be possible last week. But coming back to the week, I think it was pretty busy the entire week with work and also other commitments in the weekends. I have been invited to a Halloween party, which I have never been to, but I know it's quite a culture in Denmark, and I actually think there is so much influence from the West that is also seen in the way Halloween is celebrated in Denmark. And people ask me, the persons who invited me for Halloween party, to dress up in a weird costume that I don't have, and I don't think I could make. I have to make a lot of effort to become somewhat, creepy. I don't know if it's creepy or it has to be some sort
Just
of
take some blood or some I don't know,
blood.
cut yourself a little bit, and just put like
Do some
smash your
makeup.
face, and then it's more real than everything. I mean,
The, yeah, it's going to be fun the next couple of days because the party is on Friday, and I'm looking forward to it on how it could unfold. And will I be able to survive that? But I
I
think
mean,
yes.
did you know that there is a tradition to on the Halloween day, which is Thursday?
Mm,
There is a tradition to paint, to do some, to go to work in a weird way, either
okay.
being painting your face or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That
I
I
don't know
know.
if you have
That I know.
noticed that last years with your colleagues, or wearing some weirder clothes than usual.
Some
Um,
of them did, and I recognize when I walk to my office. There's a lot of houses which has been very spooky, and they had a lot of these decorations, which was if you look at them for the very first time, you would definitely be scared. And I remember in my canteen, in my office canteen, there were finger look-alike decorations where it was chopped, and I was like, so gross. I would say, what the f, and then suddenly for 2 seconds of adrenaline rush, and then I have to like, oh, it's not real.
no, okay. I can't believe that this still works on some people.
It works.
Impressive.
I have no idea because I'm not even prepared for this. For example, if it's a season where you're looking forward to it, you probably would know the context. Especially from me, from my perspective, we don't celebrate Halloween in India. It's not a culture, but I do understand there's a culture in Denmark about Festalavn that is more or
Yeah.
less similar to Halloween, but it is not the season either. So it's more or less like,
Well,
yeah, yet
Festival is
another.
more children beating up
Mm,
cats in barrels.
yeah,
That was the tradition, right? It was not about celebrating the dead.
yeah, yeah.
It's about killing cats for fun.
Killing cats. Killing cats for fun.
That was the purpose, right? You would put live cats in barrels and
Okay,
you would pit
barrels
the
and then
damn
beat.
barrels out. Yeah, and it used to be old drunk men doing that. Now it's children, and the barrels are full of candy.
Candies.
Uh, the
It
good
would be
old
nice if
times,
we
eh?
have some cash. Yo yo.
Do you have
Yeah.
any weird
So
traditions like that in India where you are a bit ashamed of?
I mean, any festival that requires me to wear Indian traditional clothes, I would definitely think twice. Number one, because
No,
it's not something that
clothing.
I, yeah, clothing. I mean, it is a lot of colorful clothing in India. Every festival we wear the most, I would say, vivid colors, not gray and black and shades of gray, like in Denmark. So, but I don't have that much collection even myself in even in India. So I have to like, I need to buy something. So I don't look different. But spooky or weird, I don't think we have a culture. We don't actually have that in our culture. But there is a lot of gods in India. There's a lot of festivals in India, and Danish people are like, oh, how do you celebrate throughout the year? You have something or the other going on every single month or twice a month, and I think that's unusual, pretty unusual for Danes to have these kinds of events throughout the year. Yeah, but to
How
answer your
many
question, we
gods,
don't have. Yeah,
Arun? How many gods do you have in your living room, watching
in
over
my
you
living
while you
room.
sleep? Yeah, yeah, or in your bedroom?
Good question, and I think it's very it's very common to have a belief among ancestors. We also worship our ancestors,
Okay,
uh, but I have a tradition of having some belief. I'm not super religious, but I do accept the fact that I have worshipped, let's say, the destroyer, the Shiva, the
Krishna,
destroyer. No,
Shiva. Oh,
Shiva. Shiva is quite popular in the south. Krishna is like,
because it's like a warrior.
he's the destroyer. He's called the destroyer. Ah,
So you like he's like a bad guy. As oh, he's the
yeah.
tough. He's the real
He's a
leader.
tough guy. Yeah, yeah. He's a tough guy.
What about Krishna? What is Krishna?
Krishna is, I think, one of the most powerful.
He's the main
I
god,
would say
right?
depiction. Yeah, yeah. But I don't think there's one big main god. I think
Who's the daddy
across
of them
India.
all, man? Who's the daddy of them all?
If a very subjective question, if I have to go with the daddy of all, I think it's Shiva. Being from South India, we think Shiva is the.
And I think
but
North Indians will not be happy with your choice,
but I think I
probably.
think it's a big lane that goes from north to south, and there's a lot of deities and temples that is designed. I think one thing that I could understand from these mythological characters that we have been believing, the temples and then the it's called as the yeah, based on sun's trajectory, and then they have some sort of proof why this temple is built at so and so location, and it has been, I would say, partially proven in science that this is where sun transits, or you get the belief that okay, there should be some reason behind it. We don't have a I would say solid proof to back that up, but yeah, many believe. I believe what my ancestors told, and I don't question them back. But if I have to challenge and being an atheist, I would definitely could not find reasons, a strong reason. It's still a belief, and I think I accept people believing it, and
Yeah,
they're
yeah. I mean,
super
whatever
inclusive.
keeps you healthy mentally,
Yeah.
it's a choice. It's a choice to do that. I mean, when I was young, my favorite thing was to grill my religion teachers because I'll read the Bible and then I'll take specific segments of it and then I'll challenge them on them because I'll say, "How is this possible? This doesn't make sense." Or
Mm,
uh, and then I will take quite literally the Bible. You understand? You have to understand. It's like at the beginning there was man and woman and they had
mm.
two sons, so what happened next? you know
I guess at any given history, before we started, let's say, challenging these notions, there used to be some sort of external power that we believed. So to, let's say, share moral values and organize and have this belief, I think at some point that helped. But I guess countries like Denmark is completely the opposite. You can't find a lot of religious people around. It's major atheist in this country, I guess, and very few, I would say, people
It's
who.
quite funny that now there is a resurgence of not of belief in Christianity, but belief in the
Mm,
pre-Christianity,
mhm.
into the old Viking gods, and people
Okay.
who want to return to reconnect with the traditionalism of being a Viking. And
Mm,
even though the blood has thinned quite severely, and it's quite difficult to prove any sort
mm,
of bloodline connection with the Vikings,
mm, mm,
if they take any real DNA tests. But
mm,
it's quite funny. I mean, people now are searching for all sort of spiritual refuges that will allow them to feel happy that they are alive, and
mhm,
to find meaning of being alive. And I think that's the because when you are living in abundance in
mm,
a middle class society like ours, you tend to easily get bored of life. That's why we have so many people on the happy pill, right? Like 500,000
mm,
people in Denmark take every day
mm,
a pill to keep them
mm.
happy. No wonder we are the happiest country, former happiest country in the world. Now Finland, I guess, got
Finland.
better at poisoning their people with happy pills.
I think for the last couple of years, Finland has been the case, but I think it's more or less, yeah, Finland. Yeah. Okay.
Finland versus Denmark.
Finland versus Denmark. Yeah, that's the that's the deal. Yes, Narcis. So coming back to our highlights of the week, I've
Yes.
uh, I've really been curious on the article about how to prepare for your first meeting with the bank when you're asking for
Mm.
a mortgage loan. I just really like, okay, this is something that I really need to know more about.
Okay.
And so let's start with my, I would say, my story. I have been looking for apartments, and in the articles, I could also see that you have mentioned, the team has mentioned, the bank can offer loans which is up to 4 times your annual income, and
Or
with a
even
five
5 times
percent.
if you have like a lot of disposable income,
Oh, you
like a lot of
okay?
savings in your account.
Yeah, and 5% down payment if you're EU citizen. So for me, I would say the reality is that people ask us 15 to 20 percentage as down payment,
Yes.
and mortgage is the remaining part. And so walk us through on
No, no, no. Mortgage is always 80%, no
always.
matter what
Okay.
you are. The
Okay.
rest is a bank loan.
Okay, so the
It's
split
always
is
80%. Yeah.
mortgage is 80 percentage, 50 percentage for bank loan, and 5% cash.
Yeah. Either can be
Or
20% cash and 80% mortgage. It's up to you how you
mm,
make up the rest of 20%. That's why
mm,
it's usually 20% that they can ask max in cash
mm,
from non-Europeans, because 80% is the set by law mortgage level. And it's not there are not that many mortgage, let's just say, lenders in the
mm,
country. Despite what people think, a mortgage institution and a bank are not the same thing. A bank
mm,
uses a mortgage institutions to give mortgages. That's why there are
mm,
multiple
mm.
banks using the same mortgage institution, which means that they offer the same deal. Uh, so
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 for,
yeah.
yeah, for the audiences listening to this, the mortgage companies such as, let's say, Real Credit or New
Mhm.
Credit, they
No,
they
new credit is a
are.
bank.
Oh,
Real
New
credit
Credit
is
is a
a,
bank.
yeah.
And what else do we have for mortgages apart from Real Credit?
Total credit, I don't
Total
know them
Credit.
all, but I think
Yeah.
total credit is the most common one.
Okay, and they offer 80 percentage as mortgage loan.
Yeah,
So to clarify, and then the remaining is basically combination of three
of
different
you and
parameters
the
like,
bank.
yeah, me and the bank. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. So the next step is approaching the bank when you have decided uh, what are the banks that are EU or non-EU friendly. Like for example, expats like me, we struggle a lot to be able to, let's say, um, get the mortgage and bank loan processed. I've tried two banks, Nordea and
Okay.
Danske, and the I have faced rejections, and the reason could be very subjective, and it varies case by case. But in my opinion, it feels like I have to put in, let's say, a really high amount, which is 20 percentage as down payment. And even though I have a permanent residency, so I'm more or less like enjoy the benefits of being a European, but I still consider, why should I put 20 percentage down payment? And I don't know. I mean, is it because the trust factor in EU, the non-EUs are low, or how does it work? Is there any metrics that defines whom to trust and why to trust?
To be honest, it's very subjective, and I'm not sure if they actually base themselves on any actual data or facts. To be honest, in
Mm,
here, it's just more like the bank tries to evaluate risk. What
mm,
is the chances you're going to be able to live in Denmark for the next 30 years, and then that you're going to be able to pay off
mm,
the mortgage in the next 30 years? Because basically, what happens is that the banks facilitate a mortgage, which means they take a risk together with you.
correct.
So that's why even if you put 20%
Mm,
down payment and
mm,
20%
mm,
comes from anyway from the mortgage institution, the
mm,
bank still has to vouch for you,
mm,
even though they have lended you no money. So they can
mm,
still refuse you because of that. So they look at you and think, okay, what are the chances that this person could be kicked out of the country because of political
mm,
changes in the next five
mm,
to 10 years? It's quite
mm,
volatile out there. Could it be that the far right government can come in power
mm.
and simply deport all the non-Europeans? It
Makes
can be.
sense.
It's a
Makes
political
sense.
risk.
Yeah.
Does it mean that that person will not be able to pay their mortgage afterwards? It means.
Mm.
So
But I
kind of
but I
that. That's
agree. I agree to that extent where people with work permits face this, and that's a very usual thing to consider. It's very uncertain and very volatile, right? But what if a permanent resident who has the, let's say, the advantage of, even what if the worst case scenario, if he or she loses the job, he still gets to stay in the country, which means that he will find ways to get employed as soon as possible if he or she has the motivation. And that goes for every other non European, right? For example, he or she loses the potential to work for a company, and it should be a risk that everybody faces, except, let's say, someone with work permits. And I agree. What I could challenge you is, or not you, I mean in general, the theory is, I don't want to pay for a personal bank loan, because then I'm basically putting in a lot of interest apart from the interest for the loan itself. So I was like, how can I cut my additional expenditures and just pay for the mortgage
but that would be eighty
percentage.
percent. So you always have to be prepared with 20% then.
Yeah, yeah. And if I don't manage to get the 20 percentage, if I arrange a bank loan, then I put more money as interest for that 15 percentage of bank loan, or 10 percentage, whatever the amount is. And
No, no, no. I mean, yeah, yeah. But you're talking about interest rates now, or what?
interest rates, yeah, interest rates for the
But
bank loan.
interest rates are not in the 10 or 15%. We're talking about five at best.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I wanted to
They
avoid additional numbers, but yeah,
if you, I
it's a
mean,
very
think about
subjective question.
from a different perspective, like
Mm,
depends, because remember what it said, it's about a loan, it's four times your annual income, right? And if
mm,
you're a family of two, let's say
mm,
each of you makes half a million per year, you're
mm,
two 1 million, which means you can take a house of up to 4 million. Let's say you have
mm,
some savings that allow you to put 10%,
mm,
which means you have like 400,000 in savings. That means you actually can get a 5 million loan.
mm,
And that means a 5 million house. So if
mm.
you want to put 20% on 5 million house, what is that? 1 million.
Mm.
But you don't have one
Okay.
million right now, but you can afford the 5 million house. So either you go down and you just take yourself a 2 million house, which you can afford to pay 20% now because you have the 400,000,
Mm,
or you take the loan because you feel like you deserve to be in a 5 million house. And it's fair
mm,
enough. Why not? I mean, not,
mm,
it shouldn't be just the privilege of the rich to live in in
mm,
5 million krona villas and whatnot. I
mm.
wouldn't do it, obviously, but if that's your dream and having a very nice house is what makes you happy, then go
Yeah.
for it. I mean, it's not impossible for let's just say a lower middle class to afford
Mm.
pretty expensive villa in Denmark. as you can see.
How is the housing market in Aalborg? Because Copenhagen, I would say, it's impossible to find 2 million house in a, I would say, decent city, close to city neighborhoods close to the city, right? You have to go a bit of let's say place like um, all over or Valby. It's impossible. If you go further to Gentofte, that's the most expensive commune.
You
And
don't
then
go
you go,
north. You're
you don't
going
go
wrong
north.
if you go north. You go south towards
Yeah,
Brøndby, Ishoy.
Bonneview,
Uh,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Sulhavn is also one of the most expensive. It's very, very close to city.
yeah,
So the ideal option is moving towards west.
yeah. I
And
mean, come to the
and
north in Aalborg. Here with 5 million, you're a king. I swear, you can have a property with 40 hectares, lake,
wow,
forest, and then huge building, a huge building.
yeah, I would definitely consider it as my retirement home in Denmark.
Mm.
And then I have to find a job in Albo if I have to find an apartment. But I think
Can't
it's
you work
a
from home? Your job, aren't you like IT engineer or something?
uh, that's the common misconception that all Indians are IT consultants. No, we fix computers, which we are by default we have the skill set. But I don't think not all Indians living in Denmark
No.
are IT engineers, and I think yeah, I work for the construction sector, and I'm completely like different. I It's a day
But do
job.
you have to work with your hands or do you have to work in front of a computer?
That is technically right. I work with my computer, but
So,
it doesn't mean that I have to work from a remote location or work from home. And I hate working from home. And I do workshops and facilitation that involves people and collaborating with people in physical meetings. So, and that is why I think moving out of, let's say, Farum or Bauswa is still a bit on the outside the city, and anywhere close to the city it's impossible. You have to forget buying a house in Hella Hoop or Hillol. Crazy numbers.
yeah, 20 million up. Oh my
I have
goodness.
to forget buying an apartment. Then
Nah, but
yeah.
I mean, Arun, you pushing yourself. You're like punishing yourself if you choose to buy something in that direction. It's not like you
Mm,
can. I mean, I don't want to offend the Copenhagen listeners, but I wouldn't raise a family in the middle of the city,
mm,
to be honest. And then suburbs are safe and suburbs
mm,
are nice
mm,
for family life. In the
mm,
end, you need to have your peace. You shouldn't be living in a box with
mm,
neighbors that can listen to your to
mm,
you through the walls.
mm,
It's peaceful to have a house and a garden,
mm.
and to be honest, I live in Aalborg. I don't even live in Aalborg. I live outside of Aalborg, 30 kilometers.
Okay,
Um, I still
that's a
managed to
long
go.
distance from Alpo. 30 kilometers is quite some distance, right?
It's half an hour with the car. So
Yeah.
in the end, I still managed to go to Copenhagen for more important events and whatnot. So
Mm, mm, mm,
if you really want to, you can make it. That's what I'm saying. Is like
mm,
if you put your daily quality of life at top, then that decision will come easy for you.
mm.
But
Agree.
that's with time, you know. That's
Mm, yeah.
it's. I wouldn't have thought like that in my 20s in no way.
Mm,
So
mm. Great. I think it's fair, and I also saw in the article that you have to like contact at least three different banks to get loan mortgage loan offers. And why specifically more banks? Because then you get some comparisons to deal with, and
yeah, I
then
mean,
choose
there's
that.
60 banks in Denmark, you know, so
Okay.
there are chances that one has better, let's just say, conditions than another.
Mm, mm,
It can be that they work with a different mortgage institution that offers better conditions, or maybe they have lower fees as a bank
mm,
for opening the bank account, the loan, because you know you have to pay also even a fee to open the loan,
mm,
a fee to operate a loan, and so on. So bank also has some fees that they put on top of the interest
mm,
rate because they need to make money on it, right?
mm,
So that's why there's different banks, different conditions. Some banks might be more smaller banks might be more willing to give loans to people because they don't have so many customers and they're more desperate to make more business.
mm,
So if you find a smaller bank, that might be your better bet. You know,
mm,
if you keep getting refused by Nordea and new credit and what
mm,
Danske Bank. Or another thing would be to simply, I noticed with the Romanian community that if you get friendly with one or two Nordea bank
mm,
clerks,
mm,
then you just have to always be like referring, hey, my friend Alexander, he wants to buy a house. Can you please help him out? And then they will help him out, you know. So
mm,
it works a lot of relations that you build with the bank clerks at the different banks that there are. They have a lot more power also
mm,
on how much discounts to give you on their pricings and whatnot. So they have a lot of power, the different clerks in the banks.
mm,
So getting friendly with some of them doesn't hurt.
That's
Do
a
you know
good tip.
your bank clerk?
I yeah, when I applied for bank, I think the person who processes the loan, right, is that the
No, but
person?
don't you have someone in bank that's assigned to you for your needs?
Yes, 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 yes.
So that person, do you know that
Mm.
person?
I don't know them on a like I haven't built any relationship to talk about these. But I just wrote mails, and I think it's a good tip that you're giving me. To I would say probably I will make a call and then take it from there. I think it's a good start.
Offer
Cool.
something for that person to work with. Like for example,
Mm.
say, I do you have already an investment account with them?
No, I have a savings account. I don't have an investing account.
Start an investment account. It's
Mm.
500 crowns a month that you can invest into something, and they will be
Mm.
happy they will treat you in a different way.
Mm. Okay.
So the more business you have with the bank, the more happy they will be to do things with you.
Mm.
We
Mm.
also had the same situation when we started the company
Mm.
and we were looking for a company account. I know many bank account. Many people were struggling and had
Mm.
difficulties in the past. I'm not
Mm.
talking today, but in the past
Mm.
couple of years. But in our case, it wasn't difficult at all to get a
Mm.
bank account, just simply because we had mortgage, we had car loan, we had
Mm.
investment account, we had different
Mm.
products that we were already using from them. So it was very natural for them to just give us yet another product from the bank. So the
Mm.
more relationships you build with a certain bank, the more
Mm.
likely they will be to trust you.
Mm.
Yeah. Go and
Interesting.
have ask for a meeting with your advisor. Hey, let's talk about my options,
Mm. Mm.
and then you can develop a relationship with.
Mm.
Have a little bit of small talk with that
Mm.
person. Try
Mm.
to be a bit personal. Build, and then they become like friends.
Good point. I'll try to do that. But thank you for the suggestion.
I mean,
And
it's
do
a
you
one-on-one
recommend?
Denmark.
Do you recommend any expat-friendly banks that you have come
It's hard
across?
to say anymore.
Mm.
I have believed for many years that Danske Bank was that because simply
Mm.
they were the first ones to accept me to have a bank
Oh.
account in
Mm.
2009
Mm.
as a student. I know that they were refusing EU citizens as well
Mm.
in the beginning, many years ago. But when I needed a mortgage, for example, I had to switch to Nordea.
Mm.
They were more willing to give me a mortgage than Danske Bank was,
Mm.
for example, because
Mm.
Nordea is more risk averse and has bigger. The Nordea is probably the one growing the most in terms of mortgage selling, so they are the
Mm.
most likely to give out a mortgage with a
Mm.
higher risk.
Mm.
So it's hard to say if there is a bank that's very friendly towards internationals. Probably the most friendly would be Luna, right? Because they cannot see who they are processing. Thanks to the god of inorganic matter,
Okay.
aka the informatic systems. Lunar and Revolut become the most friendly banks for internationals because they cannot see who they're
Mm.
processing,
Mm.
more or less, right? More
Mm.
many of the stuff there are automated, but I don't know. I don't know. Can Lunar give loans? I never even
Um,
thought about that.
I have never even thought about having a bank loan with Lunar, but it is also very fast growing as we speak, and Revolut
I'll
is
be
very
surprised if
popular.
they don't have loans. They must have. They're a bank, right?
Mm.
So look
I
into
mean,
that. I mean,
it's also I would say I'm thinking about my risk investing in Lunar or Revolut, which is new players in the market, and yeah, there should always be someone. talk to and build a relationship, or let's say customer service. I'm not sure if the team or the size in lunar, and also yeah, basically I'm not sure, but I think the
It's not a
first step for
traditional
me.
bank, Lunar. Definitely, it's not like
Mm,
you have a person there assigned to you
mm,
to look after you, because they focus more on streamlining efficiency,
mm,
right? And
mm,
that's the whole idea behind Lunar and why they can be cheaper sometimes than a traditional
mm,
bank. But at the same
mm,
time, if you want to build relationships and whatnot, then a traditional bank be maybe
mm,
more fit for you. Yeah.
mm. Good. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good tip. And also suggestions with Lunar and Revolut. Let me think. But let's move on to the next topic, which is about
Yeah.
money, but in a different aspect.
Money.
200 billion with a B Danish kroners revenue from tourism in 2030. And the government is planning to achieve this goal by investing a lot of millions to promote Denmark abroad, and also encourage us to visit other parts of Denmark. And let's talk about it. What's this ambitious goal more about?
I mean, to be honest, I understand the push for more money invested in tourism, and we should
Mm,
have more focus into that.
mm,
But to be honest, climate change is doing the work for us. The south
mm,
of Europe is getting hotter and hotter every summer, 50 degrees, 45 degrees, forest fires,
mm,
and whatnot. So people actually the highest increase in terms of tourists,
mm,
because we always have the German tourists as the main bulk, Norwegian, Swedish main bulk, always been like
mm,
that, and then the American tourists who come with their croisier ships in here.
mm, mm,
But what has been increasing like severely in the past 2 3 years, it's been
mm,
Spanish people, Italian, Portuguese, Greeks, running away from heat in their own country.
mm,
So that's the new wave of, let's just call them climate tourists.
mm,
They cannot stand 50 degrees. It's not healthy for them to be there, so they go for, not for 1 2 days, they come for a
mm.
month or two.
Seriously, month is a long lot of time.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
they
it's a
don't
month that they
just do
stay
Denmark.
away from 50 degrees.
Or then they can choose to say different parts of Scandinavia, for example.
Yeah, I mean, who can afford to move around, they move around. Who can
Mm,
get a good deal in a in
mm,
a in a vacation house down in
mm,
some forest where it's
mm,
clean, calm, and good enough.
mm, mm,
That's the new wave of tourists, and that will only increase. So it's not unrealistic to say that Denmark will go from 168 billion
mm,
per year in tourist revenue to 200 million, because literally we have almost full occupancy on our summer houses,
mm,
hotels,
mm. True.
Airbnbs in the summer. July is
Mm,
even though half of Denmark is gone, almost everything is taken. So it doesn't feel
mm,
anymore like Denmark is empty in July like it used to once upon a
mm,
time.
mm,
I'm looking at my own village where I live here. Like it goes from a couple of thousand people to
mm,
3 times the population in the
mm,
summer.
mm,
It's incredible.
mm. I
So
guess
yeah,
summer in Denmark is one of the best things. I had a feeling when I first came to Denmark, the first months, February was the coldest time, and it was also the coldest day for a very long period in 2019. And then when I went back after the contract ended in 3 months, it was the best season ever. It was summer in Copenhagen, lots of people outside. It felt like you have an air conditioned room outside, and people stayed the entire day, whole day outside. And I was like, okay, now I'm supposed to return back to my home, which is also summer in Indian summer. It's a very very hot, and I just miss the summer in Denmark when I came here for the first time. But it's funny that they call Indian summer in Denmark here. I don't know why they adopted the name called Indian summer. I've you have seen this phrase listed many times. Oh, now we have the Indian summer. I don't know.
really,
Indian summer. Yeah, yeah. I've been seeing this phrase called Indian summer, and I was like, why do they refer Indians here? And Indian summer is not, I would say, comfy. it's one of the, I would say, scorching sunlight, right? It's 40 plus, and it's crazy in India. But I felt one of the best times in Denmark is between like May until end of mid August. Perfect weather, and a lot of activities, and of course it's a busy. Tivoli is just filled with tourists every day, and then you have all these cities which are just flocked with people, and yeah.
Denmark is a refuge for many people in the summer. Simply, that's the reality of it. And
Mm,
of course, it's not for everyone because it's still expensive to come here in the
mm,
summer. And to be honest, if you have a house in a side village, even in the middle of nowhere,
mm,
you can easily rent it out in a month with 40,000 kronas.
mm,
Um, you can make good money with a vacation house, and now they have actually made it easier. They're gonna get more plots out so that you can buy them to build summer houses. So there'll be a lot more, thousands of summer houses being built in the next period, and also it will become allowed that you can turn your barn into a vacation house if you want to, or some farm dilapidated place which before you wouldn't ever be allowed to use for example glamping, right? So
mm,
to set up tents and people can come and stay in tents,
mm,
luxurious tents of course, but still
mm,
tents.
mm,
So it's a business that's growing, and it's definitely not a bad idea for you to have an investment in a summer house or in a
mm,
some sort of a building close to anything that's can be recreational, like a
mm,
forest or a beach, which is not difficult because Denmark is literally surrounded by beaches,
mm,
and we have quite a lot of forest, and we're going to have even more forest in the future.
mm,
So I would say that it's a great investment to have. Um, if you're thinking about getting yourself something, get yourself a summer house. With the current climate change, and I don't know if you have seen the report, but it seems we cannot really stop it. It gets worse.
mm,
So the climate will be altered quite significantly. That means that Denmark will become more and more sought after as a refuge place.
mm,
So having yourself a housing of
mm,
any sorts
mm,
anywhere in
mm.
Denmark, not anywhere outside of the flood areas, which is 40% of Denmark. Keep in mind that.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll have to invest quite a few money to safeguard your house. So
Mm,
as long as you stay outside of the flood areas and get yourself some sort of housing building whatsoever, then you'll do well because you'll have quite a lot of passive income coming just from that. Call it
mm,
your retirement plan if you want.
mm, mm.
No, but
Interesting.
talking about people coming to Denmark and tourists, we can also talk about the Germans, right? Why are Germans coming to Denmark? And now Denmark is like so happy about it. Like there's like literally articles on DR saying the Germans are coming,
Mm,
and we could not wait more for it. Something like that. So it's incredible that a group of internationals,
mm,
ergo the Germans, are being celebrated for their arrival into Denmark. And happily enough, they choose to move to small communities like islands and small cities and so on because they are trying to escape. Many come from Berlin, from Hanover, from Hamburg, which are very busy, large
mm,
cities where it's bustling life, and they want a more
mm,
quiet. They want to kind of reduce the speed. They want to be able to, okay, now it's time to understand what's happening and reduce speed a little bit. And I think a lot of we have noticed also a lot with students coming from Germany that they say that Denmark is like a mental health retreat for them.
wow. Okay.
Life is simply slower here. They're not the same intensity like in
Mm,
Germany.
mm.
Work is less, life is more.
It's interesting to hear. Of course, I think Berlin and Hamburg are busy and very industrious cities, and it's very, I would say, driven by jobs and a lot of corporate companies setting their bases. And on the other side, I know a lot of quite some Germans through a lot of other venues, and they say that Copenhagen life is really, I mean, city Copenhagen is still a city, but they feel Copenhagen is much better, the life quality index compared to the life quality they have in Berlin or Hanover or Hamburg. And but yeah, Hanover is not in the list. It's one of the beautiful cities I've ever been to, Hanover, and anything close to Rhine River, the banks of that. But I do agree. But what is the demography like? Are these young people coming in, or are they people looking for, let's say, retirement? What is the age group of people
Families with
migrating?
children,
Okay, so it's actually like
mainly
30,
families with
30 plus.
children. Yeah, it's many
Mm,
people who either because they want to homeschool their children. In Germany, is
mm.
not allowed. So
Okay.
in Denmark, you're allowed to homeschool your children.
Mm,
So a lot of them are simply doing it because of that, and that's why they are choosing more, let's just say, secluded areas, smaller communities, or they just simply want. They feel like they don't want their children to live the same level of stress, or and
mm,
simply give them a different alternative to life than what they
mm,
are experiencing. And many of them, to be honest, have traveled as children to Denmark, have discovered many of these places, and it feels comfortable for them to choose Denmark as a place to move.
mm,
So that's why in the last couple of years we had 5,000 Germans coming to Denmark. Right now there are 33,000, which makes them one of the top five largest minorities in Denmark. But if you include the historical Germans that have lived all their life,
mm,
and 5, 10 generations down the line, they always lived in Denmark,
mm,
then the Germans are the largest minority in Denmark, clearly.
mm, mm,
I mean, south of Denmark, there's many villages, and even some cities have German mayors
mm, mm,
um, running it. So it's very common down south. Maybe it's not so common for your reality in Copenhagen or mine in the north. Definitely not. But so if you look only at Germans that are newly arrived, or
mm,
Germans who were born in Germany but moved to Denmark during their lifetime, we have roughly around 33,000 Germans, which,
mm.
just as said, they put them in top five after Romanians, Polish, Ukrainians, Syrians, and Turkish.
And when you say southern Denmark, it's southern Jutland, right? So that's the southernmost part that shares the borders, or which part of southern
Yes,
Denmark are you referring? Okay, so now you can.
that's exactly that one. Yeah,
Mm,
it's the Tunde, Ovenro, Sonderborg,
mm,
that area.
mm,
Basically, it's a lot of villages that you could even say there is some villages where is majorities of Germans,
mm,
but by German Danish.
mm,
I don't know if there's. I'm actually curious to put together a old German minority from the south of Denmark, um, and a new arrived German in the last 10
mm,
years and see, are there differences in the way they speak German? Are there differences in the way they have traditions? Is there any actually similar, any like anything in common between the two groups?
mm,
That could be interesting because we also noticed this with the Romanians. There was the Romanians
mm,
who arrived in Denmark before the communists fell, so they ran away
mm,
from Romania as political refugees in the 80s.
mm,
And the Romanians who arrived after Romania joined EU.
mm,
And I could see that the two Romanian groups are not exactly alike very much.
mm,
Um, you could say that the Romanians came in the 80s. They integrate themselves quite well.
mm,
Many are like working as doctors or university teachers, and their children, unfortunately, many of them don't speak Romanian, and they kind of, I don't know, if forcefully assimilated into the local culture. While the Romanians who arrived after the EU joined, they had a completely different attitude, right?
mm,
They they tried more to ensure that the next generations born here speak Romanian, and they have some connections with the Romanian culture and identity.
mm.
So yeah, it's different groups. So just because we are Romanians, both groups doesn't make us very similar.
And
I don't know
talking
about
about
Indians.
language, yeah. If you talk about Indians, I think one of the biggest challenge we face is, of course, the language use of. Very popular to have English language to communicate, and very seldom that people uses their mother tongue. And a lot of communities like Tamils and Telugu and Hindi. they have, let's say, volunteers to have classes during the weekends to educate kids, so they have the language preserved, and also continue the, I would say, legacy or tradition of learning language.
So thank you so much for today. It was nice to be back in front of the mic. It's always a very interesting to have this. Very, by the way, we are recording this usually in the evenings at 8. So if we look a bit more groggy, let's just say, it's simply because it's quite late in the working day. But we're still doing this because it's fun. It's fun to discuss on various subjects. There are. It's a talk show in the end. It's not necessarily a news. Let's just say format where we'll just read news for you and that's it. It's basically we pick up whatever you can find that's interesting in the newsletter in last week in Denmark, and then just discuss it based on our own experiences and our own opinions. So that's what it is. So if you like this kind of format, you're welcome to say so, and you're also welcome to say, "Hey, I would like to participate in your discussions." And I think we can have more people. Could be fun to actually have
Mhm.
some more people to join us here and there that want to discuss with us on whatever you want related to life in Denmark. But otherwise, thank you so much for today, Arun. It was fun to talk again.
Definitely, and it was also good discussions about a lot of topics, especially mortgages and housing. And yes, for the audiences listening, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye.
Toodaloo.